Hello, I am David Hammond, the Student Government Association President at Alabama State University. And on behalf of my cabinet, the SGA Senate, and the students at ASU, I would like to welcome you to Your Vote Matters, Montgomery City Council District 3 Candidate Forum. The SGA is delighted to be a co-sponsor on this program, which was initiated by the Voting Rights Research Repository Project, a division of the National Center of the Study of Civil Rights and African American Culture at Alabama State University. Now, Dr. Howard Robinson, University Archivist and Assistant Professor, will provide the occasions.
The City of Montgomery has scheduled a special election to determine Larkin's successor on March 23rd, 2021. It is also important to note that if no one candidate garners over 50% of the vote, there will be a runoff election, which is scheduled for April 27th, 2021. Now, among other institutions, City Councilman Larkin represented Alabama State University, which of course is in District 3. Consequently, we are providing 6 of the 7 candidates vying for this city council position an opportunity to talk to the people of Montgomery, the residents of District 3, and ASU students. Through this forum, we hope to heighten political literacy, shed light on the inner workings of municipal government, and to give the candidates an opportunity to share their vision for Montgomery. On our panel, we have Orlando Ball, Ernest Claiborne III, Paul Dallas, R.J. James Jr., Marsha Johnson, and DeVore Jones. Today's panel discussion will last about an hour and will cover the structure of Montgomery City government and its importance, and the importance of being civically engaged. After the panel, we will have a question and answer session. So throughout the discussion, post your questions in the chat box and we will address as many questions as possible. I would like to introduce at this time our moderator, Dr. Regina Moore, a professor of political science at Alabama State with a research focus on race and gender's influence on policy. Dr. Moore hails from Lowndes County, Alabama, which she reminds us is the birthplace of the original Black Panther Party. Dr. Moore.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robinson, for the introduction. And welcome to Your Vote Matters, Montgomery City Council District 3 Candidate Forum. At this time, we would like to give each of our candidates a minute to introduce themselves and say a little bit about their connection to the community. So we will go in order, alphabetical order by last name. Again, each candidate will have 1 minute to briefly introduce themselves and tell us why they are connected to the community which they intend to represent. So we will begin with Mr. Ball.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Orlando Ball. I'm the logistic warehouse manager of the Alabama Beverage Control Board. Over the last 15, 20 years, I've been heavily active in the city of Montgomery. In the last 5 years in the District 3, the past year, I have hosted numerous food drives. I fed over 5,000 families, adopted children from the Brentwood Children's Home. Actually have a nonprofit that helps young entrepreneurs start their business, keep their business. Help Home Association form their 501c4. I do, like I said, I do numerous of drives throughout the city of Montgomery, especially in District 3.
Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Ball, and we will proceed with Mr. Claiborne, followed by Mr. Dallas.
Yes, and thank you. Definitely thank you to the SGA president, Dr. Robinson and Dr. Moore. My name's Ernest Claiborne. I actually was connected through Montgomery, through Alabama State University. I attended there, and I've lived on Jackson Street, Hall Street, and most recently now Spiegel Street. And one of the great things that I see with our community is we have a strong community, and some of our small business owners, like Mr. Cho, for example, in Chisholm, that runs Meat City. He's done things for our community that we have to appreciate, because during the pandemic, when we couldn't get bleach, we couldn't get Lysol and all that, he got in his truck, drove all the way to Tennessee, drove all the way to Georgia, drove to wherever was necessary to get us those needed supplies. So as city councilman, I want to partner and make sure that we encourage our small business owners, like Meat City in Chisholm, like LaRue's in Chisholm, like Dixie Hardware in Chisholm, because as we know that Montgomery goes to what's best for the whole community. And a lot of times we understand that the schools are struggling. We understand that there's problems.
Thank you, Mr. Claiborne. That is your time. We will move on to Mr. Dallas. Mr. Dallas, can you unmute your microphone?
Can you all hear me now? All right. My name is Paul Dallas. Thank you all for having me. My name is Paul Dallas. I'm a business owner. I'm a father I'm a son. I'm a husband. I've worked in hospital administration for two hospitals. I'm a graduate of Alabama State University in finance. I've worked with Montgomery Public Schools, and I've done a series of things. But what's most important is we stand on the shoulders of giants. We have people like Martin Luther King, Johnny Carr, Rosa Parks. Those folks invested their time and energies into our city, our county, our state, and our nation. At this point, I want to do the same. I want to be able to invest my time by my actions to our city to make our place a better place to live and grow our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. Mr. James, followed by Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronald James Jr. I'm a product of Alabama State University's Theater Arts Department. I'm a husband, I'm a barber, I'm a local entrepreneur here in the city, and I'm also a minister. I've always lived in the district. I've been here for the past 12 years, where I've been honored to be able to understand the constituents of this district. I'm a state organizer for Black Voters Matter, and helping people is what I do in my day-to-day lifestyle. So I'm just glad to be here this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the AASU faculty and staff for allowing us this opportunity to present ourselves. My name is Marsha Johnson. I'm a mother of two boys, a U.S. Army combat veteran, and I am also a community advocate. And I'm an author of a children's book that has recently published called Dear Bully, a member of several organizations throughout the city to include Junior League Montgomery and the NAACP. My whole goal for District 3 is to promote a clean, safe, vibrant, crime-reduced district. And with your help, those who are viewing that are voters in District 3 and those who are viewing that are members of the city of Montgomery, constituents, with your help, we can do this. I always state, and I'll say it again, we're in this together. When District 3 wins, the city of Montgomery wins. I hope to have your attention throughout this forum, and I hope that I say some thought-provoking things for you all today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. Is Mr. Jones with us? No? Then we will move on to our questions. So we want this dialogue to be more conversational. This is definitely not a debate style forum. So it is our intent to have a robust conversation with each of you this afternoon. So we will begin with our questions. So the first question is, what do you think are the most important priorities for a city council person? Again, the question is, what do you think are the most important priorities for a city council person? And so we will begin with Ms. Johnson. Ms. Johnson? So again, Ms. Johnson, the question is, what do you think are the most important priorities for a city council person?
She's on mute.
So while we wait for Ms. Johnson to unmute her mic, we will move on to Mr. Dallas. If you could take that question for us, what do you think are the most important priorities for a city council person?
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for asking. Well, one of the key components for those priorities is being able to work together, being able to bridge gaps, being able to be a team member. Those are some important roles to make a healthy and a great promote welfare and the interests of our city and our county. We must be able to do those things first. Secondly, we must be able to do all of the things that a city council person is responsible for, like proposing and passing and ratifying laws and ordinances, city council management budgets, establish laws and short-term goals. Those are the things that we all must do hand in hand to be very effective, and those priorities must be met to assure that the city, the county is going in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dallas. Ms. Johnson, I'll come back to you. Can you unmute your microphone, Ms. Johnson?
It's happening. Okay. Hey, good evening, everyone. Okay, the question was, what is the most important thing we should focus on as a city council person?
Exactly. What do you think are the most important priorities for a city council person?
Well, when I think of the important priorities for a city council person, I think of mainly for one thing, of how we distribute our funding for our community organizations, like our nonprofits that do pretty much galvanize and run our districts. So when we talk about what our neighborhood associations need, what our nonprofits that are in our communities need, and our community centers. So the first thing would be setting a tone and strategizing the budget that we have set aside as district city council members.
It appears that we've lost Ms. Johnson, so we will continue with the other candidates. Mr. James, same question. What do you think are the most important priorities for a city council person?
Thanks for that question. By far, it's being accessible to the people. If we're not accessible to the people, we can't understand the concerns and the complaints of the people. And so we can't get the things that we need to basically get done in our communities and in our districts. So to me, it's accessibility, hearing their needs, hearing their cries, hearing their concerns. That way, when it's time to distribute money or funds into our communities, we know exactly where those funds need to go in those pertinent problems. When it's come to ratifying laws and confirming appointments and reviewing budgets and approving of those things, we have the people in mind because we are servants of the people.
Thank you so much, Mr. James. And Mr. Claiborne, same question.
Thank you. One of the things that I think is most important is based on something called MET-TC. I served active duty in the Army, 3rd Brigade, 3rd ID Brigade Combat Team, Bradley Mechanic. And one of the things we do is look at mission, enemy time, civil consideration. So the most important thing depends on what's pressing at the moment. But I would say now the most important thing is approving the budget. But one of the things that we've got to do as city council that hasn't been done is be willing to make laws and be held to the same standards as we accept our constituents to be held to.
Thank you. And Mr. Ball, if you would provide us your response to that question.
Priority of the city council is the people. In order for you to administer any ordinance or distribute any funding, whatever, you must know what the people need. And that's the first priority of the city council. The city council serves the people, not the other way around. It's not a popularity contest. You're actually controlling people's lives. You're impacting people's household. So the main priority of the city council is supposed to be the people. And when I'm city council, it will be the people. Their voice is your voice is what you're supposed to provide. When they tell you what they need and what they concern, you're supposed to come up with innovators, resources or services to provide those needs for the citizen.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. And we'll move on to the next question. What role do neighborhood associations play in the Montgomery community? Again, the question is, what role do the neighborhood associations play in the Montgomery community? And Mr. Dallas, we will begin with you for this question.
Oh, yes, ma'am. The neighborhood associations is very vital. It's the heartbeat. It's the heartbeat of our communities. It's the heartbeat of our neighborhoods. It's the heartbeat of our district. So that's the vital part of a neighborhood association. It acts upon the needs of our citizens in our neighborhoods.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. And Mr. Ernest Claiborne, same question. What role do the neighborhood associations play in the Montgomery community?
Well, neighborhood associations are vital. It's a way for the citizens to have an interactive relationship with the government, which is so important. I think that's one of the primary reasons that we're here tonight, is to discuss how you can get interactively involved with the government. And when you interact with the government, and when you go to these city council meetings, go to the Board of Education meetings, go to the county commission meetings, you become part and parcel of that process. And it's so important that we get more citizens involved with that process.
Thank you so much for your response. And Ms. Johnson?
The neighborhood associations are really important when it comes to the communication between the community and the city council person. So with our neighborhood associations, we have those community leaders that are part of the association. And I hope if and when elected, we can galvanize more of our community members to be involved in a neighborhood association. So that way they can voice their concerns and they're heard in a productive way, and we're able to bring realistic solutions to them in order to cure what issues we have within the communities. So that's the real reason, the real role that our neighborhood associations play. Is that communication barrier between the leadership and the community members. It's a bridge.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. And Mr. Ball?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, home associations are very important. In fact, they can provide some of the service that the city can't in real time. If the main thing I see in our district is we have to make sure all home associations are viable. All home associations have the right information. Information is key to a home association, so they can take advantage of some of the resources that the city, the county, or the state, or the federal can provide. But like I said, they're really important because they can provide services that the city can't in real time.
Thank you. Mr. James?
Yes, so as we know, the city just gave grants to several community organizations, and neighborhood associations throughout the city, which shows some of the importance of how they are vital to the city in the production of it. As an organizer, I'm a big fan of grassroots organizing, and no simple way do we do that than teaming up with the neighborhood associations to do that, to disseminate information, to collect data that helps tool the city councilmen who are over their districts to be better city councilmen, to be able to hear from the people, to be able to disseminate information back to the people, and using those neighborhood associations as a tool in city councilman, as a city councilman, I hope to do, it will help spread good information and help bring about changes in our communities that are vitally needed.
Thank you, Mr. James. And so we will move on to the next question. You all are obviously here because you want the citizens of the district to vote for you. So my next question is, why should citizens vote in the city council elections? So this is the question that's not necessarily pertaining to why they should vote for you, but just why citizens should vote in city council elections in general. And so for this question, we will start with you, Mr. Claiborne. Why should citizens vote in the city council election?
Well, one of the most important reasons people should vote is because when you vote, you're showing people that you're active. Make no mistake about it. Elected officials do look at who comes out to work to vote, what the turnout is on those precincts, and then attention is paid to them. Unfortunately, with our district, the people that need the most help are the least likely to vote, and it's the other way around. So we almost have to switch that to get people to understand that when you're actively involved, people pay more attention to you. Our turnout was not too good as far as the state Senate race and the state Senate runoff. So we really have to show and prove that we're concerned about these issues. Voting matters, showing up matters, and letting your elected officials know that your concern is vital to the preservation of this district.
Thank you so much. Ms. Johnson? If you can unmute your microphone, Ms. Johnson. So Ms. Johnson is still on mute. We will go to Mr. James, and then we'll come back to Ms. Johnson.
So listen, voting period, no matter which level you're voting on, is important. But it's more vital that we vote on the local level for our city councilmen, for mayor, for county commissioner, because these are the people who control and produce the things that affect us more personally on a personal level, our day-to-day lifestyles. And so it's very, very important that we get out and not only just exercise our right to vote, but exercise it in a positive and in a connective way that helps us in our communities and in our neighborhoods. It deals from everything from the price of our toilet paper to the price in the way that our streets get paved. It is effective on the local level of how we vote. And so that is very, 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 very vital that we as a people exercise our power. The biggest power that we have in this country is our vote. And so voting is
Thank you, Mr. James. That is your time. And we'll come back to you, Ms. Johnson. Why should citizens vote in the city council elections?
Thank you so much. I do apologize for the listeners and the viewers for my technical difficulties. But so the real reason why everyone should get out to vote, no matter who you vote for, it's important for you to go out to vote. This is our opportunity to voice our concerns and to have someone that stands in the gap for us. So when we have issues that's happening right in our local community, we have someone that's our next door neighbor that we can talk to and say, hey, this is an issue and this is how I want to solve it. And they can, if they don't have the resources, they know who to get the resources from, and they can work at City Hall directly for us and with us. So it's that neighborhood connection and that local connection that you'll have in city government that'll work to prosper our communities. So local elections have always been important, and they're so much more important now, and especially for District 3.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Dallas? Mr. Dallas, you're on mute.
Okay, all right, got it. So the mayor can't do it alone. He's definitely going to have help. So being that we're in Montgomery, Alabama, we're in the cradle of the civil rights movement. People have fought, clawed, prayed, and died for the right to vote. So everyone should be compelled to vote because we're standing on these shoulders of these folk that has done all this for us to make our lives a lot better, and for us to even have the opportunity and the right to vote. So it's our right. It should be very important for us to go out and speak our voice for those that are going to get elected to help you.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball.
Yes, voting on the local level is very important because that's the vote that impacts your household immediately. So I advise everybody to vote, especially now. We are barking in uncharted waters. COVID has changed everything. So this is the time to really, really get into voting because it impacts your house. Like I say, immediately, the local and state government impacts your household. So that's why I think a lot of people should really, really vote and impact their vote. Another thing, know who you're voting for. Do the research. Do the background check. Check if the people who you're voting for, check their record and see what they have done before they got in their seat. That's how you determine whether or not you choosing someone that's going to further your household, further your city, further your district. Voting is very important.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. And now we're going to move on to the next question. We know that Alabama State University's campus sits in District 3. So a part of the idea behind this forum tonight is that we want to make sure that our students are also actively engaged in the upcoming election. So the next question is, in what ways are college students uniquely situated to effectuate change in District 3? And so for this question, we will start with Mr. James, and Mr. James, you will be followed by Mr. Jones. Well, no, Mr. Jones is not with us. Please forgive me. You'll be followed by Mr. Ball. So in what ways are college students uniquely situated to effectuate change in District 3?
Well, ultimately, college students they're in this district. They live in this district. And for them to be active in this district and to push forward change that's going to affect them in this district, they have to come out and vote. They have to participate. They have to exercise their right and voice their opinions of what they want to see happen in this city. They are the future of this city. Thousands and thousands of students come into the city of Montgomery that are college students every year, every semester. They invest their dollars into the city. They live in this city. They contribute. They put their taxes into the city. But very, very little and often, not often, are their voices heard in the city. And so being a part of this election, especially the students at Alabama State, where there is a polling station right on their campus, it is vital that they get out and exercise their right to vote and vote for people.
Thank you.
To look.
Thank you, Mr. James. Mr. Ball?
Yes, college students are very important to any election. First, we must register them to vote. That's number one key. But having the citizens, having younger people interact with government, it makes the city more innovative. You're getting fresh ideas, you're getting fresher legs, you're getting more insight to what the younger generation needs and what they require. And by me being in that seat, interaction with the community would be definitely with me, because like I said, you cannot decide other people's future without asking them what they need. So I think the young students are very important, very, very important. College students, high school kids coming out of high school, going into college, they are very important to the city, because that's the next generation. That's the fresher legs, that's the fresh ideas. So their ideas are very important.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. And Ms. Johnson, same question.
Hi, can you all hear me this time?
Yes.
Okay. For the college students, the reason why their vote is important is because we state all the time how we would like for the next generation to be here and stay here. We want you to raise your families here. We want to do things to attract new families. Well, we have that opportunity with the college students at ASU, at Faulkner, at Huntington.
I think we may have lost Ms. Johnson again. So Mr. Claiborne, if you would go ahead and take that question for me.
Well, college students, it's vital that college students interact. That's how this whole world changed, was right here at Montgomery. This is a revolutionary city, and a big part of it happened at the Alabama State University. So it's not just a right. I think college students understand that they have a right to vote, but it's a responsibility. And with great power comes great responsibility. So college students, they can't just stand idly by while this stuff is happening. They have to be engaged and interact, because it was students at Alabama State who went over with Richard Boone in Bloody Sunday. So it's in our DNA as Hornets. So this is our responsibility.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Dallas?
Yes, ma'am. As you know, college students kind of have paved the way for a lot of things that happens in our city and in our state and our country. Well, you got to think about it. In South Carolina, it was a group of college kids that started something that's very strong in those sit-ins. Okay, they had opportunity to do some things that make things right in their city and in their institutions and in their counties. Well, it's the same for Montgomery. Most of the folk that have worked, that now have public, that have these public positions that's serving our citizens, they come right through Alabama State University. We've been groomed and bred to do these things to help our citizens and our countries a lot better. And I'm just happy to be an alumnus of Alabama State. And I like our future from what I've seen this weekend. I think we have a
Thank
bright
you,
trajectory.
Mr. Dallas.
Thank you,
Mr. Dallas. That is your time. So we will move on to a little bit of a different question. With the social justice issues arising today, what role can the City Council District 3 representative play in addressing community concerns, especially in a predominantly African American community? So again, the question is, with the social justice issues arising today, what role can the City Council District 3 representative play in addressing community concerns? So if we will start with Mr. Ball, if you could take that question for us.
The city council person can impact in numerous ways for social justice. Like I said, first you must go out and be engaging with the people to really understand their frustration and their needs. Now, we have to really be careful about the duties of a city council, because it's only certain powers that we have to like I said, to address social. A lot of that can be, you have to work throughout the unilateral of the government for a city council, mayor, governor, senator, house representative. So let's go across the board to work together. Now, me in that seat, I would advocate for more justice reform, social justice reform, by working across the board with the mayor. Like I said, reaching out to the House, the Senate. By me working with the state of Alabama, the Alabama Beverage Control Board, I have access to senators, governors, lieutenant governors. So it's basically working across the board to impact social change and social justice with laws, ordinance, and whatnot. It's to work across the board, and I have the power to do that. I have the skill set to do that, to work across the aisle with all city officials, whether it's state and local.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Mr. Claiborne, same question.
Okay, I think it's vital, because right now we have a bad track record as far as the city of Montgomery and social justice is concerned, especially dealing with the Greg Gunn situation, dealing with the Bill Hayes situation, in which he was suspended for 11 months in a row for violating the constitutional rights of our people who didn't have the money to fight for themselves. So it's vital that we have a city councilman who's concerned with addressing some of these historic issues that we've had in Montgomery. And one of the problems now is, before, when Judge Hayes was suspended, the city gave him a job for $6,000 a month as a consultant to a municipal court, which is unheard of. So we have to call it out. We don't need to co-sign on this stuff. And a lot of times,
Thank you.
Co-sign on it.
Yes, that is your time. And Mr. Dallas, with the social justice issues arising today, what role can the City Council District 3 representative play in addressing community concerns?
Yes, ma'am. So let's start at grassroots. Let's just start at grassroots of having the homeowner associations have a local and enforcement a watch program, right? So we have a program in our neighborhoods. You know, we haven't done that to the effect that we needed. We have these neighborhood watch programs, law enforcement watch programs. We have people that make these calls, these folks, they see anything that's happening suspicious in our neighborhoods. Those are the very little simple things that we possibly could do. But at the same time, we have not passed, and I think I said this before, we hadn't passed the Citizens Review Board of police conduct. I think those are some of the things that we need to address to make things right between our neighbors, our citizens, and our law enforcement.
Thank you so much. Mr. James, and Mr. James, you'll be followed by Ms. Johnson.
So get down to the nitty gritty of the question is that you said about a councilman that represents a district that's majority Black. Everything that I do on the city council should represent the constituents in my district. So if it's Black people that are coming up with business opportunities and needing to get business license approved, if their business is legitimate and it's doing good and it's going to look good in our district, then I need to vote for that. When it comes to salaries and improving budgets and stuff, as a city councilman that's going to help the people and the constituents of District 3, which is majority Black in this social justice society, I'm going to vote in the favor of things that are going to help the constituents and the people of my district, which you said is majority Black in this social justice area.
Thank you so much. Ms. Johnson?
Yes, when it comes to social justice and this city council seat, I can speak more about the food insecurity. We are the most impoverished district in the city of Montgomery. So things that we can do to relate to that, and that's coupling with organizations that help bring food into the community. It's coupling with the ACLU, it's coupling with SPLC, it's coupling with EJI that sit right in the heart of District 3, getting with those organizations, partnering with them, and helping with the issues that we have within our district and within the city of Montgomery. Because what happens is whatever happens over here in District 3, it directly or indirectly affects the entire city. And that includes most of the protests happen downtown at the Capitol steps. What are we doing to work with those protesters? How are we keeping them safe so they can utilize their natural right as a citizen to voice their concerns? I can remember when all of the protests were happening with
that is your time, Ms. Johnson. And I do apologize. The time, it runs by so quickly, and we will have some time for closing statements. So anything that you are not able to get into your response and your questions, just make a mental note of it and you can address it when we get to the closing statements. I do want to remind our viewers, if you have questions, to make sure that you're posting those to social media so that we can pull some of those questions and pose those questions to the candidates before we end our forum for tonight. So the next question is, how do you determine the most pressing issues in District 3? So what logic, what mechanisms do you use to determine what are the most pressing issues or the most pressing needs for the constituents of District 3? And so for this question, we will begin with Mr. Dallas.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Well, in District 3, the pressing needs are what you hear from the folk that live in District 3. So, you know, it's ultimately is a compound of listening to everybody, have these strong homeowner associations, listen to everybody, invite folks to come in, you know, tell us what their needs are, and connecting the city with those needs and getting the right proper funds and support they need to make sure those issues are taken care of. That is how you connect the dots. That's how you bridge the gap. That's how you get some things done for those folk and our people in our district. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Claiborne, and then you'll be followed by Mr. Ball. How do you determine the most pressing issues in District 3?
Could you repeat the question? You broke up a little bit.
How do you determine the most pressing issues in District 3? So what mechanisms or what logic do you use to determine what are the most pressing needs for the constituents in District 3?
Well, the most pressing need right now is the crime. We have a major problem with crime. And as you know, it hit home at Alabama State University. So what we have to do is in Alabama State University, in the neighborhood that I live in Highland Gardens, in different parts of the district, we're being affected by crime. And we can't have a safe community if we have a crime-ridden community. So while there are other concerns, the blight is a major concern, the education is a major concern, but until we fix the crime, then we can't have a vibrant community. So crime is definitely it should be on everybody's, the number one, everybody's priority. Because if we don't have a safe Montgomery, we don't have anything.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ball?
Yes, the most pressing issue in District 3, long before I even thought about running for this seat, I've been out there in the neighborhoods, in the community, and every single person concerned is the water throughout District 3. No, you talk to anybody throughout the whole district, they're gonna tell you about the water. I get that on a constant basis. The water is the issue. The environmental is the issue. That and the unlimited resources, grocery stores, the community centers are not being used. And most of all, people are kind of scared because of the pandemic that we're in. Business owners trying to maintain their businesses, people trying to keep their homes, trying to pay their bills. Seniors not being looked after correctly. So we have a lot of pressing issues in District 3. But the main one is the water. The water is the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Mr. James?
Sorry guys, my light went out. So I think the question was, how do we determine and what is the mechanisms that we use to determine what's the pressing issues in District 3? Am I correct, Doc?
That's correct. That is correct.
So with me, first of all, is listening to the constituents, hearing the voices of the people. And after taking that, making that determination, I found a problem that's, first of all, it's going to help knock down another problem by solving. Just for example, I feel like if we start to solve the issues of blighted homes and dilapidated properties in the community, we start to raise up the property value. Raising up the property value, it makes us able to attract better jobs. Better jobs includes attracting better stores in our food desert. And our food desert equals supplying better water to our residents. And so someone once told me that you're chopping down a lot of trees, but if you chop at one tree, maybe that tree will help knock down the other ones that you're trying to chop down. And so that's my philosophy, and that's how I would determine on what's the pressing issues and moving forward in District 3.
Thank you so much. Ms. Johnson?
So I'm a product of District 3. I can state that very firmly. I am a direct product of District 3. So I've seen firsthand the issues that we face, whether it's the food desert, whether it's the blight, the lack of resources, the lack of economic development, all of the dilapidated buildings. These are my neighbors. These community members, these constituents are my neighbors. They're my family members, and their concerns are my concerns. I don't hear them just by visiting the neighborhoods. I hear them on phone calls. I hear them when I'm at my cousin's house sitting on the porch. I hear them on a daily basis if we're having a family reunion down in Newtown. These are issues that we talk about all the time that are forever pressing to my family and to my community members who are my neighbors. So that's how I find the issues. That's how I know how to disseminate what the issues are and what are the real ways we can solve these issues. Because something about dealing with issues as a city council person, it goes above being just active. It's being engaged. And so engaged with residents. Yes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. And we're actually going to start with you first for this next question. So how does a city council person balance the day-to-day demands of their office against their other responsibilities? So how does a city council person balance the day-to-day demands of the office against other responsibilities? So we're going to start with you, Ms. Johnson.
You would balance those things, and I would balance them. I would speak for myself personally. How would I balance those things? It's by setting up a calendar, organizing my schedule correctly. I've had an opportunity to manage over 46 soldiers at a time, or organization of about 150 employees under me at one time. And it's all about how you strategically place your tools and your resources and how you set your time out. So I would directly, if I'm going to work to my 9 to 5, I'll know how to schedule out my events that's happening throughout the community. And I'll utilize my neighborhood associations, because it's not going to be a job that I do alone. It's going to be with the help of the community members, with the help of our strong suitors in the community that are neighborhood association presidents and board members. So along with my nonprofit, so it won't be something I'll do alone. So it won't be just my schedule that I'll work with. It'll be with the community schedule. So we can all do this together because we're better together.
Thank you so much. And Mr. James, same question. How does a city council person balance the day-to-day demands of their office against their other responsibilities?
So there's communication, there's planning, and there's intentionality. Those are three components I think that are vital to anyone planning and juggling multiple things that they have going on in life. I've heard several people say that this is a part-time job. City councilman is not a part-time job. Serving the people is not part-time. And representing the people is not a part-time. So along with everything else that we have going on in our lives, we find out that balance of being, first of all, having great communication amongst the people who are working with us. Secondly, is great planning. And third is being intentional in everything that we do.
Thank you, Mr. James. And Mr. Dallas, how does a city council person balance the day-to-day demands of their office against their other responsibilities?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm a business owner, and at this point, I have the luxury to be very flexible. I don't have to be at the restaurant or anything at a certain part of time. So the city council position is actually a full-time position. So I have the time. I have the and I wouldn't have got into this race if I didn't have the time to do what's exactly right for our business. So at this time, I said, well, I have time. I've grown my restaurant from a 7-seat restaurant to over a 100-seat restaurant. I have the time not to have been to be there now, to just focus on our citizens. And that's what it's going to take for us to move along. It's going to take somebody that's able to not have to, that can work from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, because I have that flexibility. And I'm willing to do that because I have passion for our folk in our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. Mr. Ball, how does a city council person balance the day-to-day demands of their office against their other responsibilities?
Being a city council is not like you said, not a part-time job. It's a full-time job. You got people's lives in your hand, and I believe that this seat takes someone who's dedicated, who has always been putting in the work, not afraid to put in the work, not afraid to go in certain areas, not afraid to engage with the people, not afraid to sit on some porches all day and just talk to people and see what they need and what their frustration are. So I'm doing that already. So my job would not interfere with nothing I'm already doing already. So if you're not already doing it now, when you get in that seat, it's going to be an uphill battle for you to do it when you get in the seat. So my track record shows you that my job is not important than the people need. And that's you're going to get that when I'm in that seat. Your well-being is my concern 24 hours a day.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Thank you, Mr. Ball. And Mr. Claiborne, same question. How does a city council person balance the day-to-day demands of their office against their other responsibilities?
Well, unfortunately, if we look at the past, it's not been too well. I've been to the public budget meetings before, and some of them didn't even know the acronyms, which let me know that they didn't read the budget beforehand. So a lot of times people are just doing things by the fly, and I'm not going to do that. I learned how to do my homework, and that's something I pride myself in, is I always do my homework and research. And I've been a shift commander before at a maximum security prison. I've been a platoon leader in the U.S. Army. So I know how to organize. I know about time management. But most importantly, I'm retired from the U.S. Army. So I do have that flexibility in my schedule. I work at Maxwell Air Force Base as a CYP, but that job has certain flexibility. And I want to dedicate the time and energy necessary to making District 3 successful. So I will make it a priority for my time and energy to go into District 3. And I have flexibility with my schedule in order to do that.
Thank you so much. And we're going to start with you for the next question, Mr. Claiborne. So what are the responsibilities of a city council person? So we've been spending a lot of time talking about just in general what your role would be if you're elected to this office, but more specifically, what would be your day-to-day responsibilities as a member of the city council?
Well, the city council person is a legislature for the city. The city is broken down like this. There's an executive, which is the mayor. There's a judicial, which is the court system, the municipal court system. And then there's the legislative body, which is the city council. Of course, there's the president of the city council, and that president will step up and become the mayor in case we have a situation like with Mayor Bright. When he went to Congress, then President Jen Wright became the mayor of Montgomery. The pro temp steps up into that president's role. But primarily it's to make legislation. And what we're supposed to do is protect the constitutional rights of the citizens of Montgomery. And we take an oath to do that. Sometimes we do it, sometimes they've fallen short in the past. But the most important thing is to not tremble on the rights of our citizens. And a lot of times, as city council people, we have that responsibility.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ball, same question. What are the responsibilities of a city council person?
One is work closely with the mayor. How can I say, review certain agencies, monitor certain city agency, review the budget. Now the city council is not over the day-to-day operation. That's the chief executive, which is the mayor. But we do, like I said, review the budget that the department head submits. Like I said, we work closely with the mayor, look at some of the mayor's projects, some of the mayor's goals, what he's trying to do, and work closer with the mayor to try to move the city further, revise or create ordinance to provide better services for the city of Montgomery and the people of District 3. So basically, the city council is made a legislative body. We pretty much create and interpret the laws, but the mayor does have the final veto. But I think the city council's most important job is to work closer with the mayor and come to an even common ground and move the city forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ball. And for the sake of time, we're going to move on to another question. So I'm going to move to Mr. James for this question. What is a mayor council form of government, and what power does the Montgomery City Council have?
So what we have is it's a form of government that consists of, the mayor as an exec, and then the city council who acts as a legislative body, pretty much. And so with that, the power of the city council is that we, first of all, review and approve budgets. We have the right to appoint and create committees. We also have the right to regulate municipalities when it comes to businesses, when it comes in the forms of licenses and etc.
Thank you so much, Mr. James. So at this time, we're going to move to some of our questions from the audience. So the first question that we have from the audience: how do the candidates plan to attract more jobs to the district? So how do you, as the candidates, plan to attract more jobs to the district? Will those jobs welcome felons and have transition employment opportunities for near releases? So this is one of our questions from the audience. And so I will start with Ms. Johnson for this question. How do you plan to attract more jobs to the district? Will those jobs welcome felons and have transition employment opportunities for near releases?
That's a great question. The first thing I would do to attract businesses to District 3 is make it more attractive. We don't have a say on how a business comes to the city. A business comes by, it looks at different things. It looks at the demographics of an area, so they'll know where they're going to go, so they can be a viable business. So we need to make the district more viable and more sustainable and attract more.
So it seems that we've lost Ms. Johnson's connection again. So Mr. Dallas, if you would take that question.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for asking. It stems through education. If we have a strong educational system, we have strong folk that coming through our education. It's gonna bring in that top talent. It's gonna bring in more industry because they're gonna recruit that top talent. It's a cradle for some of the toppest talent, the strongest talent in the nation. Well, it comes in, but they bring them out. However, it's a hub. It's a hub. You know, once education rolls in, you can tell that economics is going to roll in right behind it. But we must start with education. We must start with education our children, and making sure they're doing the right things. So we'll be that component for a stronger economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dallas. So this question, I'm going to pose this question to Mr. Claiborne. How will you increase community to invigorate community engagement in the district? So this is another question that we have from one of our audience members, one of our viewers. How will the candidates increase community to invigorate community engagement in the district?
Well, that's absolutely what we need to do. We need to invigorate interest in the district. And one of the things that I do that is keep on doing the same thing that I've done, is bridging the gap and bringing more people aware of what goes on in the city, in the county, and at the Board of Education. Because I've used my social media to reach out to a lot of different people in Montgomery to keep them abreast of what's going on. And when people are informed, when they have knowledge, when they know what's going on, then they're more apt to participate. So we've got to increase that. And what we have to do is, quite frankly, inspire some people, because apathy is so high in Montgomery. And when we chomp away at some of that apathy, then we start bringing people in. That's when changes are made. A couple of years ago, they changed the retirement insurance for retirees. About 300 of them showed up at City Hall, and they weren't happy. When people show up, when they get involved, it makes a difference. And the city council changed it that night. So it's vital that people
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is your time. This question is posed directly to you, Mr. Ball. The question is, what is the water issue that you mentioned in District 3?
I get these pictures, text messages on a daily basis throughout District 3. The water, this is a serious problem in District 3. All over District 3. It's not just Newtown, it's throughout District 3. We have a real serious environmental issue, and water is life. And we must not treat that lightly. And that's one of my main concerns is, in order for us to do all these things that we need for the district, if we don't have the essential of water, everybody said on this panel doesn't mean a thing, because this is more important than anything. This is life.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ball. And Ms. Johnson, this question was posed directly to you. It says, Ms. Johnson, you mentioned vacant lots. What could City Council do to address the vacant lots and abandoned buildings in the district?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There's a conversation about land banks, and we know about, if you don't know, the city holds eminent domain for properties within the city. So me personally, I would galvanize those vacant lots and ensure that some of the community members in those neighborhoods, if they're in neighborhoods or if they're out on and it's city-owned property, we can create green spaces by creating community gardens to empower community engagement once more, to strengthen our bonds in our neighborhoods. I would really look into doing that and purchasing those properties through those land banking programs so that community.
We've lost Mrs. Johnson's connection again. So this question, the next question is for you, Mr. Dallas. Mr. Dallas, do you see one of your businesses in the District 3 area to bring more jobs to the community? Why or why not?
Oh, but of course. Actually, I have a business in District 3. I do a concession stand. I work with a group of people group of guys. The name of it is Invictus, and we work at Alabama State concession stands. So, you know, I'm looking forward to work on that concession stands on Saturday at Jackson State University game with Alabama State, where we're going to take the victory. So, yeah, of course, it's been some time. I've talked to some people already about Centennial Hill, about me relocating down there. Downtown was an option at one time. So it's a lot of things that I've seen and talked to personally, but the model must fit. But yes, currently I have a business that works out of Alabama State University.
Thank you so much. And so this next question, it is sort of I guess a yes/no type of question. So after I pose the question, you will respond in alphabetical order by your last name. So that means, Mr. Ball, you would simply respond yes or no first. So the question from one of our viewers is, do all of the candidates currently live in District 3?
No. I live in District 3, but I live in District 3. I'm gonna leave it like that.
Okay. Mr. Claiborne?
I live in District 3.
Okay. Mr. Dallas?
I don't know where everybody else lives, but I live in District 3.
Okay, Mr. Dallas?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm a resident of District 3. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. James, followed by Ms. Johnson.
My wife gonna probably kill me for this, but yes, I do live in District 3, 1333 South Parish Street.
And Ms. Johnson? I guess we've lost Ms. Johnson's connection again. So once she rejoins, I will pose the question to her so that she can also answer the question. So this is a question for all the candidates as well. What are your plans to revitalize Highland Avenue? And so if we could start with Mr. Dallas.
Oh, yes, ma'am. So Highland Avenue, it has a long history it has a long history. I was on Highland Avenue and High this weekend and supported Mrs. Valerie Smedley. There's a lot of good bones out in that area. Talk to Mr. Roosevelt. Mr. Roosevelt sits on the corner. I go by and talk to him all the time. It is some vibrant businesses that's already there, but we got to surround them by other things. I have some things in mind. It was at one point in time, there was the pub well, not the pub, but it was a strong entertainment district. And you know, I kind of want to see that, but the model must fit. So that being said, you know, I'm looking for those investors to come in, more housing, more things to come in as far as in business, restaurants. We have a tour area that's right in the cuffs of downtown. And with that, we need to partner with these folks. Yes,
thank you, Mr. Dallas. That is your time. Ms. Johnson, and if you could go back to address the previous question about living in District 3 and then move on to the next question about how you would, or what are your plans to revitalize Highland Avenue?
Great. Yes, I do live in District 3. I'm a lifelong resident of the Sheridan Heights community, and I still live here. Also, what would I do to bring back life to Highland Avenue, which is one of the most important areas to me because I attended Bethany Christian Academy that is located on Highland Avenue. Right now, it's more of a residential area and space. So with bringing businesses to that area, I would more focus on the Forest Avenue and stretch the Highland Avenue down towards Centennial Hill and look at, and some of those properties are already owned. May I add, I would talk to the owners of those spaces and those buildings on how I can help empower them to create a space or to help them bring in maybe a co-working space into that area, because it's a very vibrant area if we just focus more on it as far as those vacant buildings. And there are owners to those buildings. So it's more of communicating with them and helping them come up with the idea to better utilize those spaces.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. Mr. James? What are your plans to revitalize Highland Avenue?
So one of Highlands Avenue's biggest problem is blighted homes and dilapidated properties. And it's going back to one of the plans that Councilman Larkin had in the district, is holding those owners responsible for those properties. And once we start to bring those properties back up to code and to an appearance that is acceptable and perceived in our communities and along that stretch, we can attract more businesses down that stretch. We can attract more people and homeowners to appreciate in the property values that go up along Highland Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. James. Mr. Claiborne, and then Mr. Ball, you will take the same question. What are your plans to revitalize Highland Avenue?
Well, that's an excellent question. One of the things in my background is I worked for Alabama State University in the Department of Grants and Contracts in the HUD program, and the HUD grant revitalized the exterior of home, and that raised the property value. Unfortunately, it was in District 4. It wasn't in District 3, but there are a lot of similarities. As for Highland, I remember the city council meeting. We both spoke out against it. Marche did it via phone, and I did it via person against the liquor store there, because we've got to understand that when we have these areas that are problematic, like right near Ann Street in that corner, then we really got to pay attention to that, because we're doing these things that have a detrimental impact on the property. So that's what we have to do. We have to save our spaces, and we have to redevelop those through grant writing means and other means.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ball?
The city had a riverfront development project, and High Street and Highland Avenue was the last phase of it, but it wasn't completed. I've been working with Miss Smedley, Valerie Smedley, personally. Tours of Montgomery, I've been working with her personally. And I've been trying to help her finish the last phase, get the city to finish the last phase of Highland and High Street. So I've been working with her personally, so High Street and Highland is very important. It's a very important area. And it's businesses right there, and people like Miss Smedley is already doing the work themselves as private citizens, as private business owners. If you go up on that corner right now, you can see the work that this lady has done by herself with no help. And you have a lot of businesses that are doing the work of the city by themselves. And the city had a plan to revitalize that area, but for some reason it got off track. By me being in city council, I will make sure we get back on track and finish what was promised to those business people on that street to see their dream fulfilled.
Thank you so much. And we do have another question. What are your plans to address substance abuse, particularly in Highland Park? So again, the question is, what are your plans to address substance abuse issues, particularly in the Highland Park area? So we will start with Mr. James for this question.
Well, as city councilors, we have to know just what our limits are, and our jurisdiction ends when it comes to certain things in our communities. Me being an advocate, first of all, for organizations who are already out doing the work for substance abuse, make sure that there's access to programming, and there's access to resources that we can put into our communities through our neighborhood organizations and through organizations that are already doing it in the community to help with substance abuse.
Thank you, Mr. James. Mr. Ball?
Yes, I agree with Mr. James. We have to, as city council, we have to really know our boundaries. And my word, I believe that a title is not greater than a man's word or name. And if you can't deliver, do not promise anything that you can't deliver. And like I said, for as city council making sure, trying to tackle substance abuse, our hands are tied to us. It's limited, but it's ways that we can come up with certain services that we can try to educate people on substance abuse. As city council, I will do that. I will try to put more out there to educate people on substance abuse.
Thank you so much for your answer. And Mr. Claiborne, same question.
Thank you. Because how we look at substance abuse is very important. Because as you know, my background as a correctional officer, I've seen the vast disparities in the way that people are treated. For example, if it's a methamphetamine related crime, there's a whole different level of understanding. You're almost fast tracked to certain programs that get you out of prison faster. And that's based on the majority demographic population that's affected by the methamphetamine. So it's a crisis when it was meth, but it's not a crisis when it was crack. So what we have to do is on the city council, we have to look at this and what is the disproportionate impact of these sentences? Because I've said this before and I'm going to keep on saying it. We don't need the city jail to be a minor league franchise, the Alabama Department of Corrections. We already have the biscuits. So we have to address it. Yes, we're not going to let people get away with committing a crime, but also we're going to be understanding in our sentencing, and we're not going to have the disproportionate impacts that have historically been there.
Thank you. Thank you. That is your time. Mr. Dallas?
Yes, ma'am. So, you know, these people in this area in Highland Park, what's happening is everyone knows that this is going on. Well, we have to start again with ground roots. All right, make these phone calls, make these calls, and let law enforcement know. It seems as if they need a very, very strong neighborhood association. Where we have law enforcement there that already kind of know these people. All right, so we have these meetings with law enforcement, and then they said, well, we know that there's a problem with these diseases. So then we go from there to making these calls to people that can possibly help them, connecting the right dots. I mean, it's ultimately just bridging the gap for them to get the services and the help they need. So we just start with talking to these folks, getting these folks the proper things they need, get these issues taken care of by just talking to law enforcement, having the law enforcement in that area that's in this association. It's like a watch program, and get these people taken care of. It's just that simple.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. And Ms. Johnson? I think we've lost Ms. Johnson again. So what we're going to do now, we're going to move into the closing statements. I think I see Ms. Johnson possibly rejoining us. So I will allow Ms. Johnson the time to address this question. And then after Ms. Johnson provides her answer, we will start with our closing statements.
Thank you so much. So when we think about substance abuse, I want to be clear because I did not get the opportunity to talk about the roles of city council. And so when we talk about that, we're talking about they're appointing members to boards. The city council is doing levying taxes, they're approving the city budget, but also we're partnering with other organizations. So when we talk about crossing the line, there comes a time where we have to build and collaborate, right? So near Highland Park is a peer support program and COSA, the NCADD. It is very important that we work with them and get them mobilized into that community. So they may not know that issue resides over there. So it's not going to law enforcement, because we've had so many incidents where law enforcement has murdered community members that suffer from mental illnesses or substance abuse issues. So it's more on activating organizations that work directly with those issues to help solve them. A lot of things can be solved at the community level without calling our police officers, because they have so much other important things to do when we know the issues in our community and we can find the resources to help remedy those issues.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. So at this time, I would like each of you to take about 1 minute to give us your final thoughts. And since we began with opening statements going in alphabetical order, we're going to go in reverse alphabetical order for our closing statements. So that means, Ms. Johnson, we will start with you, and you will be followed by Mr. James.
Thank you so much, everyone, for viewing us today. Those that come in to view us later, I ask and I implore you to listen to all the candidates, hear our statements, hear our responses, understand who knows and who does not know the responsibilities of a council person. I am a lifelong resident of District 3. I again ask you to vote for your neighbor, vote for your classmate, vote for your family member, vote for someone who will advocate for you when you're not around, vote for someone who will respect your culture, respect who you are as a person, and advocate for your needs and your wants. Vote for someone that will bring in and remedy the food desert issue. Vote for someone that will continue the road work, that will work with the sanitation department, that will work with waterworks when it comes to our issues, that knows their bounds and how to partner and collaborate with other partners in the community to get the job done. It's not on me just to get this done. It'll be something that we all need to step up to do together. It is our time to step up, the working class adults, to step up for our seniors, to step up for our children. We know that we have issues, but it is, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. James? Mr. James, you're on mute.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for everyone who has joined us tonight and for everyone who will be joining to watch this afterwards. I'm not going to sit here and try to give an answer to every problem that District 3 has. I'm not going to sit here and try to address every issue that District 3 has. I'm just going to tell you this, District 3. If you vote for Ronald James, you're voting for a man that's going to be accessible, that you can hold accountable, and that ultimately us working together, we can resolve and address every issue that District 3 has and bring about an ultimate change. So on March 23rd, I'm asking you guys, I'm imploring you guys, I'm begging you guys to go out and exercise your right to vote, first of all. But secondly, just don't exercise that right to vote. Vote for a change that you can count on. Remember the name Ronald James, City Council District 3. You guys be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. And Mr. Dallas?
Again, vote for Paul Dallas, City Council District 3 on March 23rd. The reason why is because I'm gonna bring all of my competencies, all of my time, all of my passion, my experience, my energy, my dedication to this seat. If you want someone that is going to be able to get the job done, be able to link people together, be able to work collectively with people, you will vote Paul Dallas. You will vote Paul Dallas. He knows District 3. He's a son of District 3. I sit in the heart of District 3. Vote Paul Dallas, Paul Dallas, March 23rd for a change in Montgomery, in the city of District 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. Mr. Claiborne?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. I was not born in Montgomery, but my kids were born in Montgomery. I went to Alabama State, and 20 some odd years later, I'm still here, and I'm proud to be here. And what's really important is that we service our community and meet the needs that are in front of us. And we have to talk about topics and issues that are relevant. There is no issue that is greater relevance than crime. On the street that I live on, there was a murder 2 houses down to my left. There was also a young man who was murdered on Ann Street that's directly across from me. So crime is the major issue that we have in Montgomery. Yes, we did have a food desert. That occurred when Piggly Wiggly left. But we had a small business owner like Mr. Cho who stepped up and brought back food to our district through Meat City, which is in proximity. It's right in the heart of Chisholm. It's near Sheridan Heights. It's near Highland Gardens. And what we need to do is embrace those business owners. And we have to do these things. And as a student at Alabama State University, you're not just a student at Alabama State University. You're part of this community. When you go to ASU, you become
Thank you so
family.
much, Mr. Claiborne. That is your time. And Mr. Ball?
All I can do is be honest. Do your research. If you haven't seen my components before this election, you're going to get the same results when they get in that seat. I've been doing the work, putting in the work long before election has even been thought of. I'm not the one that come around when it's time to gain something. I'm around every time to make sure people are straight, people are well taken care of. I'm not a person to take. I'm not trying to gain anything. And I feel like some people are trying to gain votes instead of them being sincere about getting the votes. I have fed 5,000 people this past year through the pandemic. I have adopted children at the Brentwood Children's Home, provided Christmas for 27 kids on my own. I have hosted food drives, water drives throughout the city because of.
Thank you, Mr. Ball.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you to each of the candidates for participating. And we want to thank the audience for their participation as well. We want to encourage the candidates to go back and view the comment stream on social media and address any questions that we did not get a chance to address in our forum tonight. Dr. Robinson with the National Center for the Study of Civil Rights and African American Culture will end today's program with closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Dr. Franklin and the Steering Committee for the National Center for the Study of Civil Rights and African American Culture, in collaboration with the Student Government Association, we'd like to thank all of our candidates running for City Council District 3 for their participation. You have offered valuable insight into the role of a City Council member and shed light on the inner workings of municipal government. I hope that our audience has enjoyed today's program and that you will get out and vote on March 23rd. We invite you to follow us on Facebook at Civil Rights Center and to visit our webpage for information concerning our upcoming programs. Again, thank you.